Well, hello. Welcome to All Today. We are back on our special Super Sunday edition. Cheston, are you ready for your team to lose tonight?
I'm always ready for my team to lose. I've been conditioned for 20 years.
That's true. His team is the Rams, for the record, and they purposely tanked for a decade so they could move to Los Angeles. So he is used to losing.
Yeah, the same thing I did to move out of Illinois.
That's true. You purposely did bad at your job so they kick you out of the state.
That's
They
right.
gave you like a Viking funeral. And also with us is Setzer. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm okay. It's been a week. The field of journalism sucks as always. So glad to not be. Well, I'm working later today, but glad to not be working currently. And then it's back to the old grind. But hey, that's life. So let's start with Setzer this week. What have you been playing?
I have played nothing but Scarlet Nexus this week.
All right, back to the old well.
What has surprised me most about this game thus far is how little my impression has changed over time. I'm 20-ish hours in. I'm not done with the first story campaign, Yuito's story.
Oh man, you're going slow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about it is I love the gameplay, and so I'll just take my time and explore the areas and do all the optional fights and stuff. And then it's something like an hour. I clocked it at one point, to do all of the bond conversations and all that. It's an hour. It took me an hour of just sitting there with my controller out of my hands, sitting on my desk, and me playing Sudoku on my phone.
Puma style.
You and I, Derek, we talked about this via text message a couple of nights ago, but it's like someone looked at Persona 5 and said, I want to take the ensemble structure of P5, and replace the turn-based aspect of it with more of an action game, right?
Right.
Without realizing that their writers at Bandai are apparently nowhere near as good as the writers at Atlas.
That, and I also think what helps Persona is that you can kind of pace it yourself. Like if you watch the social links or whatever, you don't have to spend like an hour watching them all like in a row. Like you can do one and then go do another stat or something. And the little conversations you have are pretty snappy. They're like 5-minute little scenes. And I know what you're talking about exactly with Scarlet Nexus. Like, you finish a mission and you have a bunch of scenes and they're long and they're boring and
borderline nonsense.
You can't like access them during the mission, so like you watch them then or you don't watch them. So it's just like it's a pacing issue almost as much as the writing issue, I think.
Like I mentioned last week, if the writing were more interesting, as it is in Red Dead Redemption, I wouldn't have had such a problem with sitting there and listening to these characters, right? But as it stands, this is a game about 10 teenagers having political opinions, and that is perhaps the second most boring thing in the world next to listening to a stranger tell you about their dream.
That's my job.
Well, you can't win them all. It just is such a load of BS listening. And the story itself is nonsense. I saw an article from one of the writers, I believe, for Scarlet Nexus, who said, he wants to do a sequel about more mature, quote-unquote, themes. And it's like, look, you wrote a game about Moonman terrorists trying to clone people that can create black holes with their mind to travel through time to make a black hole big enough to transport the Earth and the Moon back in time before a natural disaster. And to do that, they grind up people's brains into brain pills to make them make bigger black holes. You're completely off your rocker if you think, you have the wherewithal to write a mature story.
It is bonkers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
About a story about 2,000-year-old moon teenagers.
Yes. The characters are the most one-dimensional anime archetypes imaginable. We talked about that too. It's like, oh, here's the 50-year-old woman in the body of a 12-year-old girl. Here's the, borderline hiki girl who struggles to speak. Here's the Bastionne-san, and it's like on and on and on and on. And I just wish these people would shut the hell up so I can play the game.
Yeah, the only people with any discernible personalities that aren't like just typical anime are the main two characters. It's really nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
But the gameplay sure is great.
Yes, the gameplay is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I don't play third-person action games a whole lot, just because those are not so common on PC. But now that I have my Xbox controller, I figured why not try it? And I really have been enjoying the game. It's just a question of, like, can I actually play this game for any length of time for more than 20 minutes before I have to sit through an hour of trite yammering?
A very boring cutscene.
Yes.
Because it's weird because like you laid out the plot beats, and on the surface that sounds enthralling. Like it sounds like a bizarre story that you wouldn't see anywhere. But when it plays out, it's really, really not very exciting.
It's very surface level.
Yes.
So the premise of the game, when you first start playing, it's presented to you as more of a conspiracy about the society in which these characters live, where everyone's brain is kind of plugged into a central government computer.
And they can censor things in real time.
Yeah, and it messes with their perception in real time, and it's about government control information.
That part was cool. That's what I was like, oh, this story might go some places.
Yeah, well, what struck me about that is that's a theme that Westerners obsess over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even in our everyday lives, people tend to obsess about that idea of government control. And then so that could have been, something that really caught fire in the West, I think, or at least been relevant. And then you go to like, okay, they're grinding up human brains to make brain medicine for psychics, and that's kind of gross. And then that's kind of not mentioned again. And then it's moon colonists and moon bioweapons, and they talk about climate change, but they make sure to say, like, oh, don't worry, humans didn't cause climate change. Something knocked the Earth out of orbit closer to the sun, and that's what caused climate change. Which I thought, it's like one line. I thought that was very strange. You could have just left that up to the viewer. They talk about the treatment of disabled people, of medical experimentation on children, and they just keep going with more and more. Cloning. They talk about cloning. They talk about the effects of, like, I've been in cryostasis for 2,000 years, and now I'm not familiar with the society I live in anymore. Da-da-da-da-da. All these things. And it's like, if you had just stuck to a cast of 2 or 3 characters living in a 1984 anime, you could have been golden. But no, you had to go the extra 99 miles and make a confusing, sloppy mess.
This game, I've said it before, but if they cut like 10 hours off of it, it'd be a pretty solid little chunk. It would have improved quite a bit, I think. And I also don't think they need 2 campaigns. They really need to just put them in one. But you will get it when you get there. Yeah,
I'm kind of dreading the second campaign because I've read that Kasane's playstyle is much worse and more boring.
Played through her first, and I actually liked the way she played.
Really?
To the point where when I played Yuito, I was like, eh. So maybe it's one of those things like it depends on who you play first. I don't know. But but I think her story mode is more interesting because they tell you all the secrets and stuff. But you're saying like all this stuff happens, all very surface level. There's really nothing to it. There's nothing like to dig into. It's what it is,
Yeah, they'll yammer on and on and on about the computer system that runs the city of Rahabaki. They'll tell you this and that and this and that and this and that, and they'll really belabor this computer that you visit for like one mission and then leave. And then they'll totally gloss over major plot points with like a 2-second cutscene, and then it's like, okay, and then
Let's get back to who you have a crush on.
Yeah. Let's go meet Kagero at the bar. And then they'll have moments in the story where it's like, we belabored the rules of how things work in this world for so long. But I just went and broke the rules real quick, but only this one time. I can only do it this one time. And that way you can go to the next mission. And it's like, that just comes off as really sloppy.
Yeah, there's a lot of slop going on.
Yeah. Like the guy whose job it is to like monitor the thoughts and memories of everybody on the team. Earlier in the game, he's like, oh, it's super illegal for me to actually record your memories or perception via my psychic console here. And then later in the game, he's just like, oh yeah, I did it real quick, but only this once. I can't do it again. So I got you that thing you need for the next mission. Don't worry about it.
I mean, I think when you were asking like whether you should play this or Control, I think I described this as a solid, like just a 7 out of 10 game. Like it's nothing extraordinary. Mm-hmm. So I think you're kind of seeing what I mean. And that sort of thing is doubled when you're coming off Red Dead Redemption 2, which is a game that's one of your favorite games ever now. So it's like you go from, I would argue, a masterclass in storytelling to a generic anime tripe. So
high school remedial.
So it's probably you're a little harder on it than I would be, but I think you're well deserving to be. So it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is still a game that's worth playing, and I wouldn't say it's a bad game, but if you're listening to this and you're interested in playing Scarlet Nexus, my advice to you is boot this puppy up, and whenever you see press the 3 lines button to skip on your Xbox controller, take the game's advice, skip all these bullshit cutscenes, and play the game.
Yes, if you really want to know what's going on, look at a synopsis.
Yes, yeah. It'll probably explain it better, too. I've noticed there's some weird localization issues in this game, too. Like, a lot of your interactions with your buddies are presented as, like, text messages, right?
Yes.
I noticed some characters, they'll tell you something, like, really deeply personal or something, but they'll follow it up with, do not reply to this message, or no reply is needed, or something like that. And that would be, like, incredibly rude to say in America.
It would be.
I mean, I'm just picturing it now, like breaking up with someone over text.
It's something like that a lot of the time. And I feel like they had like a different localizer work on the text messages because the grammar in there is sloppier than elsewhere in the game. And it feels like it was like, we need to translate this, but it is not a priority. Just get Google on it. And then they whip something up.
Would you compare this favorably to the translation in One Piece? Pirate Warriors?
The Pirate Warriors translation actually got better as I got deeper in. They were like, we don't care about the beginning. Let's, the hardcores will look over it. We care about the end. And the end was better. So I would say this translation in that spot is worse than Pirate Warriors. So what I'm getting from this is that it's a mixed bag.
As I said, I'm of two minds on it. I'm really enjoying the gameplay. I just unlocked having 8 SAS options at once, which, really opens up the gameplay even more.
And SAS is like your support, like your comrades, their abilities while you fight. So like they can, someone will like give you the ability to clone yourself, that sort of thing.
Or teleport, or go super speed, or, combine your attacks with fire or lightning.
Yeah, so you just got more. You just doubled your combat options.
Yeah, and it adds a lot of depth to the combat, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, I look forward to your next report on it. Hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully you enjoyed the secrets you'll unveil. I think the twists are interesting, but I also, because this game kind of is gibberish at times, I forgot a lot of it, so it'll be interesting to hear the twist again and remember it.
I'll take notes. We can discuss.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, all right. Well, Cheston, what have you been up to?
Let's see. What's worth talking about? I started the Earthbound, but I do not think...
That is worth talking about.
Yes, it is, but I also don't think I'm far enough in to say much. I've been to the part that I'm in several times. So I think I'm gonna put a bookmark in that so that next week
Where are you?
I'm Happy Village. So usually I get about 4 areas in, about halfway, and that's usually where things peter out for one reason or another. So I think by next week I can check in and we'll see if I made it past where I left off several years ago on the Wii U.
I'm guessing you probably left off slightly after Saturn Valley.
Yes. Because if you recall, back then, I did not play any RPGs really, and I didn't know how to play RPGs properly. So I didn't know how to beat Master Belch.
Oh, you didn't use the
Right,
fly
because I
hunting.
didn't read, I didn't talk to all the NPCs and read the very obvious clues. Since then, I've finished, a couple Final Fantasies, a couple other RPGs, and I'm more exposed to the genre, so I know what to do.
Yeah, your approach of not talking to NPCs is bad in Earthbound because that's
Oh
where
yes,
all
and
the fun
now
stuff
I
is.
do that, and it's delightful. So I will
Yes.
continue to do that.
Did you see the door where they say, "What's the Beatles song that ends in XXX today?
Yes.
Yes or no?"
I did. I thought that was pretty
I
good.
thought that was fun.
Yeah.
That was a fun little line of dialogue.
There are plenty of fun little lines of dialogue, but I'll save that because at this point in my life, I've said I love the first part of Earthbound enough times, and I want to actually see it through before I start to talk about it as if it's a beloved classic.
Yeah, you gotta get the foresight
Yeah.
at least.
I think so.
That's Earthbound New York
And
City. So
it's nice to have it on the Switch. Last time I played it was on the Wii U, which certainly had the tablet, but I mean, this is just a
well, you're
much
playing with a Play School
right.
tablet.
This is a
So
much more desirable experience, and it's been really good to, when I'm cradling the baby, trying to rock it to sleep or something. It's been nice to pop open Earthbound and make a little bit of progress. Just pretty low key game, really. Other
yeah.
than the few times where it's not low key at all. So other game, I said last week, gonna play a little bit of Xenoblade every week, and I continued that, and I love it more every time I play it. I do like that game quite a bit.
So are you walking back your Shulk hatred in Smash Brothers?
Yes.
Oh wow.
I was gonna ask, have you made it to the cringe anime dance scene yet?
So that's Xenoblade 2.
Oh, pardon.
So he will not get that scene.
Yeah. If I finish and enjoy this game, I will absolutely check out Xenoblade 2. But I'm expecting the worst from that one because I know that Derek isn't a huge fan, and it's pretty well divisive on the internet.
And Derek's the sniff test for JRPGs,
Yes.
as far as I'm concerned.
I need to go back and replay it because I've seen enough people that I don't think their opinions are stupid like that game.
Yeah.
So I need to replay it because maybe it's one of those things where I hated it and then I
Yeah.
was hating it for no
Well,
reason.
regardless, it's a divisive game. I see a lot of people who are big fans of the first one but hate the second.
You're not gonna make it past the big titties.
No?
No, you're gonna be like, ugh.
I mean,
Shielding your eyes, like what was that journalist?
It's Klepek for the Yakuza cutscene.
well, have I ever told you the story about the Titanic?
No.
This is an awful story. So, in my previous relationship, my girlfriend was a big fan of the Titanic, and we went to see it in theaters when they re-released it in 3D, which was actually a pretty cool experience because they really dolled up the theater for it. They gave you these authentic Titanic tickets, like you're getting on the real boat. It's kind of cool. Got your 3D glasses. And the movie, as far as 3D movies go, I mean, it was pretty good. And I like the Titanic quite a bit. I'm not one of those people who hates it. But the famous scene where Leonardo DiCaprio paints her like one of his French girls. My girlfriend at the time covered my eyes in the theater as I, a grown adult, was in the theater, and she decided that I should not look upon Kate Winslet's bosom. It was embarrassing because I was in a theater in public with my 3D glasses on my face, and she just put her hand right over them. I, to this day, have never seen Kate Winslet naked. You should probably cut everything except for that last part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so
yeah.
you can, just as a total non sequitur. Like what? Oh.
Yeah. Like, what
Why
are
is
you
he talking about
talking
Kate Winslet's boobs? What's the deal?
That's
Yeah.
bad.
Next week I'll tell you about the time I watched what's that movie with Sharon Stone where she shows her crotch?
Total Instinct or Basic Instinct.
Yeah, Basic Instinct, where my wife covered my eyes during Basic Instinct.
Oh well, that's okay. That's a different body part.
I kid. I've never seen it. Yeah, so the only game I will talk about, and I'll talk about it very briefly because really there's not much to say. Been a very low energy week at my house because I haven't had like any sleep. So I've been playing the Spyro Reignited trilogy on the Switch, which I bought 2 years ago. It's part of my big quest to clean out my backlog. And that game is pretty good. It's just really like the most mindless game you can possibly play.
Very solid.
So it's really, really ideal for those kind of situations because it's like super simple, easy enough that when you're of a tired mind frame, it's not asking a lot of you, but it's asking just enough to keep you awake. So it's kind of like the perfect game for someone who's rearing a child.
Kind of like my Musos.
So
this is mindless.
Yeah, anybody who's into that, like anybody who's having a kid, if you can cover your nose enough to pay for an Activision game, then mayhaps this is a good one for you. And to address the elephant in the room, because this is the Switch version, which came out a year after the PS4 and Xbox versions. I do think visually, as far as these ports go, it looks pretty good. I think it looks better than the Crash ports, which looked very okay on the Switch. The only thing I've noticed in terms of like a reduction in quality is obviously the textures aren't as good. That game has beautiful grass on the Xbox and PlayStation, and on the Switch it has serviceable grass. But the characters look pretty good. Everything looks real solid. Like the fire looks nice. Gems look good when they pop off the screen. So those things are all nice. There's a few performance issues, but I don't know that's exclusive to the Switch because I know that the Toys for Bob games, as much as I enjoy them, are not known for being rock solid on the performance side. So that's my Switch performance report, brought to you by the Kingdom Hearts Cloud ports.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's drop $80 on those things and see
Experience the power of the cloud with all of your favorite PlayStation 2 games. Kingdom Hearts, Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts R, capital E, Chain of Memories.
The original one's
Kingdom
better.
Hearts Birth by Sleep. And even Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, you can play the whole set.
All via the power of the cloud.
I feel like that collection told me what I need to know about the PlayStation era, is that Spyro is better than Crash.
Yeah, I told you that, though. You just didn't listen.
I didn't listen. That's my fault.
Yeah.
But when
it's just like it's a really childish game that executes what it's going for.
Yeah.
Whereas Crash wants to appeal to like edgy teenagers. And history has shown time and time again that those things don't age very well. Whereas, something like Spyro can be kind of comforting.
Yeah.
Nothing comforting about Crash 2.
It's a comfort food game.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Yeah. And there's 3 of them, so I have lots to churn through. I'm halfway through the first game again.
Well, they get more complex later.
I know. I played 2 a little bit. For some reason, I always stop when I play 2, but I think it's because I, had a bad habit of buying games when I already had a lot in my backlog. And I've frozen my buying this year, so...
Well, 2 is better than 1. So.
Yeah, the 2 adds that move where you can flutter at the end of your flight, which is a nice adjustment to your maneuverability.
Yes, it is.
But 2 does lean on some of those crappy mini games, like the,
skateboarding.
As was the tradition at the time, the sequel had to have some weird, unnecessary additions. So 2 has like that hockey game, which sucks total ass. And 3 has the skateboarding game, which is pretty bad from what I remember.
It sucks. It sucks in the remake too.
It's just how it is. That's just what you did back on the
it's a product of its time.
PlayStation 1 and N64.
It's like a crafting system today. You just do it because you have to do it.
You just had to. Like the second game has to add something to put on the back of the box. The kid has to go like, oh look, he's playing hockey now.
You know, in 20 years, I hope we look back at crafting systems, like look back at these crappy mini games, like, oh, remember when they put these in video games?
Same way we look back at like hacking mini games
Oh, absolutely. Oh,
from the PS3,
Oh,
Xbox
yeah.
360 era.
that was in everything, wasn't it?
Was there ever a good hacking mini game? Like, what was the best one?
Nope.
I can't think of one that was even remotely good, so I don't know.
The Ratchet games had an okay one. BioShock has a bad one, I think.
Do you remember when we were in high school and Mass Effect 1 came out?
That had a bad
and
hacking game. It's just super mindless.
and its bad hacking game prevented Goose and his big brother from making it through the tutorial level.
Yeah, they just don't have a lot of patience.
they do have no patience.
That hacking game really sucks though, because it's just stupid. Like, there's no thought. Isn't that the one you just like press the button, Simon Says style?
I think that's what it is on console.
Okay.
On PC, it's like you have to navigate a little pointer through a.
Well, Goosey played it on console, so that's what he was. I guess he
Yes,
was really
of course.
bad at Simon Says. I
Well,
should make fun of him for this.
well,
Thanks for reminding me. I'm gonna text him later.
I think maybe he doesn't know the controller, as well. So for people that don't play games as much, that might be a little challenging.
I guess. It's just like, why even do it? Like, why even have a mini game if that's what it is? Just let you
Yeah.
open the box, or just make it like
It's just a time waster.
or just make it a currency check, because I think you can use currency to override all those. Like, if you have enough Omni Gel, it's like, well, just forget it.
Mhm.
Which I never did in the remake because it's so like stupid easy. So I was hoarding Omni Gel like a squirrel storing nuts.
Yeah, I never really used Omnigel that much, so I always had a ton.
No, really, and you don't really.
Use it for the Mako, I think.
Yeah, so next week we'll do the top 10 hacking minigames.
All right. That will require some research.
That'll be our feature. And I'll reflect on the time that I was sent a review copy of Pipe Mania for the DS, which is basically an entire game that was a hacking minigame.
Does number one would have to be the Enter the Matrix like cheat menu, which is all like the prompt stuff.
Oh, really? Yeah. I don't remember that.
Yeah, that had a whole like menu where you'd like put in you coded your cheats or whatever. It was interesting. It was a very thoughtful thing to do with a Matrix game.
Bad game. At that.
Yeah, I need to play it again. I trust reviewers
no, you
less.
Don't.
Yes, I do, because I trust reviewers less and less as time goes on. So I need to see if it's as bad as they say.
I think it's probably as bad as they said.
Yeah, probably.
It was a licensed game in the early 2000s.
That's true. Well, any Western licensed game is trash in general. They don't.
I mean, except for Shrek 2. It's a pretty good game.
Of course. And Lord of the Rings, those games, the Return of the King.
Yeah,
Two
Towers, Return of the King were pretty good.
Yeah, but that's it.
Yeah.
Though some people like those Harry Potter games, but I think maybe that's just like nostalgia.
They're like weird pseudo Zelda games. The third one I thought was okay. Like, they started to kind of play with having you switch characters, and each character had different abilities, and so you had some interesting puzzle solving. The first two were just awful. I mean, talk about licensed games that take liberties with the fiction.
I wouldn't know. I've never played.
I always said that we being Setzer and our friend Goosey, back in the day when we all lived around the same area and would hang out all the time, I always said we should get all those games, starting with the Sorcerer's Stone on PS1, and play through them. We never did.
Yeah. Goose and I did an LP of Deathly Hallows.
Yes. Extremely
inebriated LP.
The best kind.
I think you were extremely inebriated. I don't know about him.
He was. We raided his dad's whiskey.
Oh,
Probably had some 30-year-old whiskey in that cabinet.
Oh, most assuredly.
Well, that and some 20-year-old Townhouse crackers that he refused to throw away.
They kept Billy beer in their fridge, so.
True. I bet they still have it.
I bet they do.
So that's my week. I got nothing else.
Well, what a fun week.
It was an all right week.
Yeah, I look forward to Earthbound check-ins.
Yeah, I'm enjoying Earthbound.
Well, very good. So, this week for me, I finished Pirate Warriors. I have still nothing to say about it, really. The interesting thing about that game is that where it cuts off is the current arc they're in. And so the game kind of makes up its own ending for that arc, which I always find fascinating. But instead of doing anything interesting, it's just like a, haha, we'll see you at the next island sort of thing. And like it's just total bullshit to the point of like, why did you even bother trying to like make up your own ending if you're not going to do anything? So that's the big disappointment there. But What can you do? And because I'm just filling time until Elden Ring, I've decided to revisit the classic Sonic Unleashed for the 360.
Just played Sonic
Uh-oh.
Unleashed.
Yes. So it got a 60 frames per second patch back in November. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it one more time. And if I don't like it, it's just not ever meant to be. And I got to say, this time I'm actually having fun. I think what this game needed was a patch. Before then, I felt like the Sonic controlled very strange. Like it felt like there was a delay on my inputs for him, and the God of War stages were just brutally unfun. And now that everything feels smooth, I'm having a solid time, and I'm approaching from the game knowing like I have to collect a bunch of shit in order to advance the levels. So knowing that and approaching the game on its own like merits, I'm having fun. Like I see why people like it for the first time. So I am walking back how harsh I was. But I mean that said, like
But as you told me in a text,
yes, if you liked it before the 60 frames per second patch, you're still wrong. It still sucked. Like what I played back then was not fun, and I don't know how anyone tolerated it. Like Sonic games below 60 are unplayable. When I first played Generations on the PS3 way back in the day, I enjoyed it, but every other time I've played it has been on PC where it was 60. So like I don't know, a couple years ago before they patched the Xbox version, I tried it on Xbox. Like this sucks. Like all the jumps are brutally bad. You can't really control what you're doing so well. So I will. If you're making a Sonic game and 3D that's below 60, don't do it. Don't. If Frontiers is below 60, cancel it right now. Don't bother. So yeah.
well, it'll be below 60 on Switch.
Well, luckily I won't be playing it on Switch. I hope. Unless both my next gen consoles break.
We can arrange that.
We can arrange that. We can take a hammer to him. But I mean, neither of you have really played Sonic Unleashed, so I can't really.
I have.
You played the Wii version. This is a different pony because
Those.
but I now will say this version is better than the Wii version. I like this game, which is not something I thought I would say upon replaying it. So I also respect that they tried to do something different. Sucky, because I still think exploring for medals in a speed game is a stupid idea, but they tried to do something different, so I got to applaud them for that.
I'll always remember that game as the game I asked for Christmas, and then when the reviews came out, it was too late.
You unasked for it. You're like, oh, I don't got to buy this.
I was like, oh crap, I took that off my list, but it was too late.
It was too late. The shopping was probably done months ago.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know.
And thus I had Sonic Unleashed.
I've decided that once I beat this, I should probably try to play Lost World, because it is the another 3D Sonic I haven't beaten. And I currently have no way to play Boom, which is the other big one. But I have a feeling I'm not really missing out on that one.
You have a 3DS.
No, you got to play the Wii U one. That's
Oh.
That's the moneymaker. That's the one that everyone said is one of the worst games ever made. So it's.
You don't want to emulate Sonic Boom on your Wii U?
Well, I don't know
on your PC.
I don't know if it's playable.
How many contenders does the Sonic franchise have for worst game ever made?
Well, this one Sonic has
06.
2, as far as I know. It's 06 and Boom. I don't know if the Boom sequel.
What about the BioWare game?
Oh,
Think that hangs?
I think that's probably worse than those two.
Yeah,
Because
Sonic Heroes is pretty bad.
Sonic Heroes is not in contention for the worst game ever.
Okay.
It sucks, but it's not.
Oh, ever. I thought you just meant worse than the Sonic series.
No, he said worse.
Oh.
No, I mean in general.
Yeah, 06 is up there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
06.
I think
Boom. Forces.
Forces may be bad, but it does not hang with those as far as bad go. I know you said it as a bait sort of thing, but the BioWare game I think is actually worse than all of those, because like a bad RPG is damn near unplayable. Like
Land is worse than bad.
yeah, well, yes, that's true. It's not bland. It is fascinatingly bad, but it's hard to say. Like playing a bad RPG is a lot worse than playing a bad action game, because you have to like sit through like slow combat, and that game has really, really bad music, which for a Sonic game is unheard of. Trust me, bad RPG can't do it. It's a different beast. But because all I played was old, I guess shovelware, I have nothing else really to say. So my segment's pretty short. So let's get on to the news.
Let's start the week off with some good news for once. The MAME team posted on Twitter that it's their project's 25th birthday. MAME got started on December 24th, 1996, and 25 years later, it's still going strong.
MAME's like the coolest thing ever. For those that don't know, it's like someone made like a fighting game where people can just import whatever fighter they want from anything.
Wait, that's Mugen.
Yeah, you're thinking of Mugen.
Dang it. MAME is the emulator. Duh.
MAME is the arcade emulator, which is also cool.
It is cool. Okay.
Yes, it's also the coolest thing ever because it emulates just about anything.
Rewind that. MAME is really cool. It's an arcade emulator for those that don't know. Apparently me, because I confused it with Mugen. I remember like doing screenshot Let's Plays on my MySpace /1UP page of like the TMNT arcade game, that sort of thing. Like it was just cool to be able to play those at home. I can't believe it came out in '96. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, I've played MAME on Raspberry Pi with the Picade or whatever it's called, and I love it. You know, it's such a great way to play these old games.
Well, it's a good way to play a bunch of things that will never receive ports. Like you're never going to see like Bucky O'Hare or Cowboys of Moo Mesa, the Konami arcade games, get a port ever, because who remembers those things? But you can do it.
Yeah, it's a great way to preserve gaming history.
One of the great emulators.
Yeah.
You know, this and Dolphin are so ubiquitous.
Iconic.
Yeah,
even.
they're the ones that get the close to perfection, I would say. They even find ways to emulate like weird ones, like with the trackballs. You know what I mean? Like, it may not do it well, but you can play them.
Well, I have my trackball USB.
Oh, true. Of course. For when you're playing that Simpsons bowling game.
No, it's for when I play Golden Tee.
Oh, of course. Every bar's
and then my
game.
big USB shotgun for when I play Big Buck Hunters.
Oh man, I wish I had one of those.
And then my USB kickstand and USB light gun for when I play Time Crisis.
You got to have like a nice Coors Light for you when you play Area 51.
Area 51. No, that's some good arcade trash right there.
Absolutely.
Do you have your chainsaw for when you play Resident Evil?
Arcade?
Oh man.
My Resident Evil 4 GameCube controller?
I would love to have one of those.
Yeah.
I have always wondered what it would feel like to hold one.
Probably very bad, but I would like to try.
Yeah.
Carpal tunnel in action.
Yeah. It's like the big one, the keyboard controller the GameCube had. Like, you just looked at them and said, nobody would ever in their right mind, like, actually purchase those.
It's just cool to have.
Other than, like, now I would have one just to have it, because, I mean, it would look great on a shelf. People would ask so many questions. But, you know, I wouldn't plug that in to play Super Monkey Ball, or Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, or Adventure Island, or Amazing Island.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that because it's for Phantasy Star Online, silly. That's
Oh, right. The keyboard controller or the
keyboard
chainsaw controller?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you could type out messages.
Yes. So, like, all two people who bought the GameCube modem.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that we had.
The GameCube modem, which was, you know, I think had more games you could illegally use to play it than legally, because they had that warp pipe infrastructure that lets you play Double Dash and
Probably Melee.
what else online? I can't remember. Was it Melee?
Probably Melee.
I don't think it was Melee. I don't think you could play Melee
That would be
online.
stunning if they found the way to hack around it and you couldn't play Melee online.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
That'd be like the first one people try to get to work, I would think.
You would think.
Well, that
Maybe
or Double
Wave Race
Dash.
Blue Storm.
Oh yeah, the people are hot to try to play that.
Mm-hmm.
Back to MAME. Happy 25.
Yes, happy 25. It makes me want to go back and try and find the name of that one arcade game that I played in a penny arcade one time in the early 2000s.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. You like beat it for free, or you almost beat it.
Well, it was like they had it on free play, so I played it at a friend's party, and it was like, you know, it's an arcade game, so it was serviceable. It would not hold up if you're playing it by yourself. It was a side-scrolling beat-em-up where you were like these ninjas and you threw, you know, ninja stuff. And I know they're called shurikens or whatever, shurikens, but shurigens. But I also think these were like great value brand ninjas, so I'm not sure they were actually throwing real ninja stuff. So if you're listening to this and you know what arcade game I'm talking about based on the worst description ever, you can email me at the podcast email.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. One other thing that should be noted that arcade games are cheap, as in they cheat.
Oh,
So MAME
yeah.
is a very good way of actually seeing the end of some of those.
Mhm.
Like I don't think I ever would have seen the end of the Simpsons arcade game until much later if I hadn't have MAME or whatever.
I beat that on quarters at the barcade.
Well, yes, that would be much later.
Yes, true.
So
I suppose.
yes, because at that point they're a little more reasonable with lives and stuff with your quarters.
You
and
had to
whatnot.
hear that great Smithers soundbite,
Yes, exactly.
or the great Mr. Burns soundbite.
It's just a good way of experiencing history in ways that normally you couldn't.
In other news this week, Sony AI announced the Gran Turismo Sophie AI that can outcompete even the best human players. Did you guys get a chance to watch the video on this?
I sure did.
Did not.
I think this is cool
Yes.
because I'm not thinking so much of Gran Turismo, but I'm thinking of fighting games where the biggest barrier to entry is playing people of a certain, like you get to a certain skill level, like you're playing shitty people, you're not improving at all, or like there's no way for shitty people to move up the ranks because they have no one in their scene to play with. You know what I mean? Like a lot of that is like local play. If they're getting so good with AI where they can program it, where they can even beat the most elite people, I think at some point they're gonna be able to program like incremental AI in that way too, where like you can play like the semi-pro version or whatever, and it's like casually work your way up. Because like if you look at going back to Smash Brothers here, like me and Cheston can beat level 9 computers. Like, it's not really a problem. But would you say that makes you any better at Smash Brothers, Cheston? I would say no, not at all.
No, it doesn't, and I'm also not confident that I can continuously beat level 9 computers anymore.
Well, yes,
so
but back in the day, like we used to play them.
back in the day,
We used to play
in my
them in
sleep.
Melee, and it was not a problem. And
No.
it wouldn't make us any better. We could just do it.
It's why I can never play those games single player for fun, because they're just
It's not that hard.
well. I mean, now maybe I could, but back then it was like, God, this is just so boring, for me.
But if they could get like AI like right above your level, like where it's like a challenge, but it's not like crappy rubber band AI like an NES game, I think that would be great for single player stuff.
Help revitalize fighting games for people like me who find the gap between can finish the arcade mode and can win a match online to be just like way too big of a chasm to overcome.
Now that said, doing that in a racing game is a little different than doing it in a fighting game, so it would probably require a little bit more. But like watching this and how they kept like it went from this car can barely go in a straight line to this AI is working in a team to beat humans and like double their team score was very impressive.
They kind of allude to the problem with this system in that it takes a lot of processing power to train it up. But I do think that, as time goes on, we'll see AI applied, not only to more genres of game. I think even something like a shooter could really benefit from something like this. And not just multiplayer, but single player,
I mean, if you could make shooter AI feel like human, you would actually get benefits from playing against AI in shooter.
Well, if you could make it where difficulty sliders are more than just enemy has lots of health, like that could be pretty good. Because that's why I won't play a lot of games on hard mode, because it feels like
a slog.
They're just wasting my time by making everything way harder than it should be.
Yeah, I mean, imagine a Halo game where every elite is tunable so that they play at like a Onyx level competitive player, right? Or something like that. I mean, obviously it would be a little different, but you know what I mean, where each elite is legitimately challenged and here they are cooperating. But I also think Sony mentions in this video their goal isn't to create an AI solely to beat a human, but to make the game more fun. And they also comment, their ultimate goal is AI won't replace humans, but it will unleash their creativity, and you'll be able to describe things to AI. They don't really mention this in the video, but it's kind of, part of a lot of AI research going on now. Instead of using tools yourself, you'll describe to the AI what you want, and the AI will use the tools to make it for you, right? And I think that also has a lot of potential, not just in games, but in art, in music, industrial design. 10 years ago, even, something like this would have been very, very difficult to think practical, right? And here it is, just dumped on our laps in a racing game, of all things.
Yeah, it's really cool. The one time where AI isn't scary.
For now, at least.
I'm assuming it's making Derek very excited to play Gran Turismo 7 on his PlayStation 5.
That's a no. But maybe one day.
Oh, but you love racing games.
It's my favorite genre. Diddy Kong Racing, the best one. Said that for Cheston's benefit because I know he hates it. Yeah.
Waypoint's Matthew Galt writes this week about the U.S. military's latest attempt to propaganda again. America's Army, the Pentagon-sponsored first-person shooter, is being retired next month after 20 years of service. But fear not, my fellow Americans. The military has recently deployed service members to the battlefields of Twitch.tv, hoping that the fun of watching Marines play Among Us will convince young people to join up. Do you see a successful future for this new recruitment tactic?
No, I think kids think Among Us is lame.
Yeah.
Also, there's nothing kids hate more than obvious public announcements or like character type things or recruitment. Like anything that's so nakedly propaganda, It's like, Dare, right? You go into the school and tell the kids not to do drugs. Man, they're going to shoot up with some heroin. So
absolutely.
You tell these kids to join the military, well, I guess they're going to join Antifa and raid the Capitol.
The best demonstration of what you're talking about was the episode of South Park where they're like bringing an anti-smoking group to the school. They're singing this song about how smoking is not cool. And they immediately cut to the kids smoking after the assembly because they're like, screw this, I don't want to be lame like them. Every single time the American Army or whatever like promotes their Twitch channel, it's immediately flooded with people like mocking them. Like it seems like in the current internet, it seems like an incredibly ineffective way to bring people to your side. And honestly, I mean, I guess the studies show that this is not the case, but I always felt the Army game was a waste of time as well. Because I don't think there's really a correlation between playing the game and wanting to suit up, But I guess it did a good job of making people's opinions towards the Army more favorable. I don't know.
And I feel like Call of Duty already does that.
Yeah, exactly.
Admirably.
So I don't know, like, do I want to watch some Army guy play Call of Duty at a level below a pro? Probably not.
Now, let's change a few variables here. Army guy plays Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Okay.
And ruminates on the issues with fascism.
But is he pro or against? Like, is he like Edelgard based or what's going on?
He wants to bone Edelgard hard.
Of course. Well,
he is horny for the Red Tribe.
Well, I would say that traditional means of recruitment wouldn't work on Twitch, but if you're going to go after the simps, maybe you could get something going there. But do you really want them in your military?
Wait, are you saying an Army man hot tub stream?
I'm saying, yeah, maybe Army lady
mukbang.
Yeah,
on the deck of an aircraft carrier.
That might
in a hot tub.
That might be effective. Like if you had like some hot girl say, "Die for me, baby," like that might get some people into it. But you really don't want those people in your army, I wouldn't think.
Well, you never know. There's always a need for cannon fodder.
I suppose so. The front line.
Simps are better off there than anywhere else, I think.
Hop in the battle bus to the Ukraine today.
Oh boy.
Where
are we dropping? Kiev?
The Battle Osprey.
Oh, that's true. If you convince kids that maybe like war was like your fun Fortnite map, like they have an army officer lie to you, it's like, oh
wow,
yeah,
it changes every week.
It's pretty sweet.
It keeps updating the map. There was a town here, and now there's nothing. Oh. This is crazy. Got my rock skin, ready to go in to Twisty Towers.
Do you think flossing over a slain soldier is a war crime?
No, but doing orange justice over a soldier would be.
If they did like a viral TikTok video of a troop flossing over an ISIS agent that was deceased, I guess that's one way of doing it. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the only way they could like do a serviceable job of recruitment in this way is they do it subtly, which they have no way of doing. But they're not gonna be able to do it with like the official U.S. Army Twitch account ever.
Yeah, I don't know what kid. Like, I work with kids, and I work with some really pro-military children, but even they, I don't think, would be loading up Twitch to watch the U.S. military stream.
They'd see it like, kids aren't as dumb as people say they are. Like they could see.
No, I would say younger kids are better at parsing propaganda than adults.
They could see when they're being targeted. I can't even say good luck. I hope it fails. So, have fun, I guess.
Speaking of propaganda,
Yeah.
how about that Nintendo Direct?
Hey, Nintendo propaganda.
Hey, baby, Chrono Cross is back.
It is back. The most unlikely remaster ever, I think. But I'm okay.
I could only compare it to how people in the '60s must have felt when Min landed on the moon, seeing Chrono Cross running on a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Truly brought tears to my eyes.
Like I will tell my children where I was.
I was at work. No, actually, sorry. I was driving home. I had my phone irresponsibly in my cup holder with the Bluetooth playing the audio, and I heard the amazing Chrono Cross soundtrack, and I wept.
Well, I am very happy this happened, but this also was part of a leak that was mentioned FF9 remade, as in like an FF7 style remake. So if that's the case, that's pretty exciting too.
Yeah, this was a very Derek heavy direct.
It was.
There was
Mario Strikers coming back.
A Muso game.
Yeah.
Mario Strikers coming back, which we've been bitching about for years since the Wii version.
Front Mission coming back.
Yep, I couldn't believe it. That was like, I was stunned Front Mission's coming back.
Do you think, and Derek and I talked about this, so I'll get your opinion. Do you think that Square is deliberately not remaking the games that people actually want and are just remastering the games that like a few people want? Because Chrono Cross is a fantastic game that I like and Derek likes, but it's got a mixed legacy among most people. It's not like Chrono Trigger or like Final Fantasy VI or, I don't know, insert other popular Square PS1 game here. It just seems like to me like they're remaking this and Saga. Like, what are they doing?
I read recently that at one point Square moved their headquarters on the advice of a fortune teller.
Oh.
So I think that the leadership at Square are completely off their rocker, and there's no sense in thinking about it in terms of like, are they doing anything intentionally, right? The word intentionally kind of implies intent. I think they just do shit at random.
I kind of agree. They lucked into Yoshi P for FF14.
Yes.
Because I think that rudder is going well, and I don't see no reason for it to go off the rails.
Yeah, keeps running.
People don't like Nomura, but I do. I think he does fine for what he does.
I don't.
Well, I understand, and I get why people don't.
He's an eclectic weirdo.
But he's weird, and I think Final Fantasy games and Kingdom Hearts games kind of get his weirdness rubbed off on him, so I kind of like that. I think I completely agree with Setzer. They don't really have a plan. Any success they have is purely luck-based.
Yeah, that's the only way it makes sense, the way they've put effort into something like Chrono Cross, which I've wanted a Switch port of that game since I got a Switch.
Same.
But I also thought this is never going to happen because who's the audience?
It coming before Chrono Trigger is nonsensical.
Yeah, it's crazy. Chrono Trigger is about as iconic as it gets.
Yeah. It is. It'd be like if they said instead of doing the FF7 remake, they were like, "All right, we're doing Final Fantasy 3 remake one more time." So it's just weird.
Wait, Final Fantasy 3 US or Final Fantasy 3
JP, the crappy one.
Okay. Oh, I see. Anything else in the direct really strike your fancy?
Xenoblade 3 looks like more Xenoblade. And
Kirby game looked pretty good.
Kirby looks cool.
Yeah, you ate that car.
Yeah, that
Kirby deep throats a car.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a neat, because each Kirby game has to have a gimmick. So I think that's a cool looking gimmick.
That's a pretty neat gimmick.
Yeah, I like it.
That game looks better every single time.
And it seems to, unless I watched the direct wrong, it seems to be stealing the Crystal Shards power-up combination gimmick.
No, you watched it wrong.
Oh, okay.
You can upgrade your abilities though.
Oh.
So it's like as the game progresses, your boomerang will intensify.
So I can't have like a fire boomerang.
Sure. I don't know about that, but they show in the video like here's this basic boomerang power up, and then after a while in the game, you might throw like 3 or 4 at a time, maybe some homing boomerang. Like it's got some stuff, which I think is a good change because Kirby games are typically so simple, and you end up just sticking to one power up because once you've seen them all, you usually just find the one that you like.
Yeah.
But this will keep you trying some different things, presumably.
Well, because I know in Superstar, I stick to sword or yo-yo. So.
Yeah, I typically stick to the same things, and Superstar is a good Kirby, so in a bad Kirby, I can just imagine. So this one's looking pretty good.
It looks cool.
I'm impressed. It kind of, to me, it strikes me as having the character of a 3D Mario almost, where you just know that the level of creativity will be such that it'll be a good time throughout.
The problem is Kirby kind of has to earn that for me.
I know. It's wait and see for me. I've just like it was for, I don't know, like Metroid Dread. Like, I'm sure it looked all right, but I still needed to see it.
But I will say this is the first time I've actively anticipated a Kirby game in a long time.
Yep. I also was really excited for the Mario Kart DLC.
That's yes, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's how
48 goddamn tracks.
That's how sports games should be done. Where instead of releasing a new game, you just have like a bunch of DLC.
Yeah, I know some people want Mario Kart 9, but
there's no reason.
I don't feel like the Mario Kart games have really been different since the Wii one. So
7 and 8 pretty much play the same to me.
Yeah, so I don't know what you would gain from. Mario Kart 8 is pretty great.
Just a different roster is really all.
All it needs is a better roster and new maps, and this fixes one of those problems.
48 maps is a new game's worth of.
Well, it's almost now the game's going to have 100 tracks almost.
Yeah.
So it's pretty great.
I hope that they just keep building off of it. If they were to like Mario Kart 9 is just all those tracks and then a couple more or something. But I think this is the way to go, and sports games should follow suit. Like we don't need full price updates every year. Like some DLC would work.
Yes, but then you can't bilk your audience every year for $60.
That's true. That's true.
So,
and it's just trying to bilk us out of getting the N64 expansion for NSO,
which I already have.
Exactly.
Because I'm a huge chump.
Well, we only paid $9 per person for it. So
who's the real chump?
Yeah, Nintendo. You idiots.
They might as well be paying us.
I've already gotten my $9 worth of it, so it's all good.
My god! My most played game this year is the 64 app. It's embarrassing.
I think mine is too.
Yeah, and it's only gonna get worse as Majora's Mask comes out.
Mario Golf is going to be what does it for me, I think.
You think?
Because that's a good late night game. So I'm very excited for it.
It's a good anytime game.
True.
Screw night.
True, but it's
Mario
Gorf.
While you're in court watching a murder trial, just pull up Mario Golf and hit the links. Yes, I won my stroke play. Guilty.
Lean over to the juror next to you, be like, dude, bing, bing, wahoo.
Dude, I can flip my Joy-Con. We can play 2-player.
I guess the one other thing I noted from the Direct is that Cuphead, I thought, had a chance to be like only Xbox right at first, like it was originally, but it seems like it's just going to be everywhere. So that's cool.
It is cool.
Yes.
Because I have it on the Switch.
I have it.
So
I think I have it on 3 places. So.
Oh, do you? You got your bases covered then.
I do.
But I should say, I thought it was a really good Direct. So
I did too.
I was satisfied.
It was probably my favorite one in a long time because it was
I agree.
Derek. So
carried by Chrono Cross and Mario Strikers for me.
Advance Wars and Chrono Cross here.
Oh yeah, Advance Wars was there too.
But of course, Advance Wars is already known about, so it's hard to carry that. Yeah. But whatever.
Still gonna be a strong year.
Yep. So that will do it for the news. So Cheston, what you got for us this week in the game front?
thought I would get all thematic with it, and actually is related to the Direct. So the big thing that happened in the Direct is that Square, weirdly enough, announced a remake in HD 2D of Live Alive, an obscure Super Nintendo RPG.
Oh yeah, I was excited about
Probably
that too.
right, that probably 3 people knew about. They also announced Chrono Cross, as previously
And
mentioned.
Front Mission, also a Square Enix property.
And Front Mission. So it's almost like no one's ever really gone. Huh? Huh?
Somehow, Front Mission is returned.
So I've compiled a list of 10 dormant franchises or individual games. I thought it'd be fun for us to go through and say if they are actually gone, like Darth Vader, or if they're never really gone, like Sheev Palpatine. So, and just for the fun of it, for no reason in particular, I've ordered them from things I care about the least to things that we all would care about the most.
I gathered that.
Yes, that's why we're starting with ARMS. ARMS was released for the Nintendo Switch in 2017. It was one of the first big Switch games, but it is also one of the Switch games that seems to have disappeared from public conversation outside of a Smash character that nobody was happy about. So, Derek, is ARMS Vader or Palpatine?
I forget which is which. I think Vader's never coming back.
Vader's dead.
Well, it's
Vader's
staying.
dead.
It's staying dead.
Yeah,
No one gives a
I think
shit about ARMS. There's no like.
I know a guy.
You know, okay, well, that's good for him. But most people, I think, don't care that this franchise is dead and buried and will never come back. I've never heard anyone talk about it in the real world or online. I think this was their attempt at getting into esports, a very misguided attempt. I don't even know how you can make a sequel to this game, because it'd be like, well, here's ARMS again. Let's watch it do nothing again. So
This game seemed to me like Nintendo hedging their bets on what the Switch would be. And so they had games like Breath of the Wild that really took advantage of the portability, just being that nice, easygoing experience. Well, short burst experience, I guess. And then ARMS was, okay, well, if it turns out that the motion control aspect takes off, then ARMS will be this big time party game that everybody will love.
Well, you can play it portably. I played it without motion control.
Yeah, but why would you?
Fair enough.
The game is, I think, pretty bad.
It's okay. It's just
I
mediocre.
have a pretty good stomach for like most Nintendo games, and most of them I'll at least see through for a little bit. But I think I played like 3 rounds of ARMS with our cousin when it came out, and I was pretty immediately turned off by it. It's just, I don't like the art style. I don't like the characters. I don't like the way it controls. And I think Nintendo at this point would, if they were considering a sequel, would do the calculus and say that the amount of people who are enthusiastic about ARMS is so small that making a new one would just not be worth the effort. IMO Setzer.
Don't care, didn't ask, plus it's Nindoo. I've never played ARMS. I've barely even heard of ARMS.
Exactly.
I get the vibe. I vibe checked this, and isn't this kind of what Nintendo does? They just make up some BS IP, drop a game, and then 30 years from now there will be 20 guys on Reddit whining about no ARMS 2. And then in the new Nintendo Direct in 2045 or whatever, they'll announce ARMS remastered and people pretend they care about it.
There is a lot of pretending people care about.
That is the
things.
most plausible reason that you would ever see ARMS again.
That is a good prediction. I'm going with Setzer's prediction.
Wait, so you're changing to Palpatine?
Yeah, he's right.
Nah,
that is going to
I'm
happen.
Vader in this shit. I'm going Vader. I hate ARMS.
Just the impression I get from Nintendo is it's like, oh, here's some Flophouse IP that hasn't been touched, and we're going to pretend it was this beloved childhood gem.
They have no problem putting their feet on something and drowning it and keeping it underwater. Look at Mother 3.
That's true. Well, so that also means like a codename Steam in like 10 years, maybe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Codename
Should I put that on
Sneed.
here?
Yeah. Yeah. Should you put it on there? No, because that's a no also.
So we're going with Vader on that one.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Oh no,
Real
I
upset
was
there.
joking. I was joking.
Oh.
It's staying
Okay.
dead. It's staying dead.
All right. Next up on the spectrum of not caring about too much, we have Guitar Hero and Rock Band. The instrument phenomenon came and went and tried to come again, but failed. Guitar Hero Live came out, and despite being an okay game, I say, didn't really light the world on fire. And Rock Band 4 was just more Rock Band, and nobody wanted to buy those instruments again. So, do you think these companies will try again, or are we leaving plastic instruments in the past? Setzer?
I think. I mean, I guess this question comes down to, are you asking, will there ever be a nostalgia re-release at some point within the next 30 years?
And no, yes, this includes a nostalgia re-release.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a nostalgia re-release of these games and a reissue of the controllers within the next 10 years.
I think with Microsoft buying Activision, I wouldn't be shocked to see them want to do something like that for Game Pass.
Yeah.
Have like a Spotify style Guitar Hero service, which is actually what Guitar Hero Live wanted to do, but Microsoft certainly has more ammunition for doing so. So I'm gonna go Vader as well.
Oh yeah, I think it's coming back. Either from what you say, where it's like a nostalgia piece, where they're like, "All right, hey, remember this from your childhood," or they just didn't learn their lesson. They're just going like, "All right, here's all the instruments again. Go for it one more time."
So I think you've got Vader and Palpatine confused as well.
Yeah.
No, Vader's gone.
Well.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, whoops! I do. It's Derek's fault because he switched his vote.
I didn't really switch it. I was joking.
Sorry, Palpatine. Yes, I know. So yes, never really gone.
Okay.
God dang it! Freaking Star Wars. All right. Next up, GameCube cult classic Eternal Darkness. This was the obligatory game you showed your friends when they told you that the GameCube was for babies, because Eternal Darkness was a real mature game
For adults.
that pretended that it deleted your memory card. And I know at least one person who really loved this game.
Me too.
And I kind of liked it. It's pretty good. So I'll start because it's a GameCube thing. I'm going to say that Nintendo really doesn't have the stomach for these kind of games anymore. And Eternal Darkness was from an era where they were a little self-conscious and felt the need to try and compete with Sony and Microsoft. And I think now they're very assured of their position, and they don't feel the need to try and go toe-to-toe with their competition. So, in other words, this is dead, like Vader.
I think this is 100% coming back as just like we're making a remaster of this and it's releasing in 2 months, sort of thing. It's just something they should add onto the eShop.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Derek on this because, I did have to dig up the link to the Nintendo Direct stuff. And when I was looking at that, I saw the GTA Remaster Trilogy on the Switch.
Yes, that is
and
in
if
there.
that can come to Switch, so can a $20.
Well, yes,
pump and
but that's a
dump
third-party thing.
remake.
This would be Nintendo themselves greenlighting this because they do own this IP.
Yeah, upscale the textures, slap it on the eShop, call it a day.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be like a lot of pomp and circumstance, but I think it's.
Oh, I think if they do it, they'll doll it up a little bit.
No, what I mean is
they'll-
they were not going to make a big deal of it. They're just going to like.
No, that's
put
what
it
I'm
out.
saying. They will make a big deal of it
I don't think so.
because I mean, it's one of those things you can get some to hardcores to be like, whoa, yeah. If you remember the skeleton guy, the Roman skeleton, then your childhood was awesome and fucked up because this game was like real weird.
Well, that is one issue with the remaster is that a lot of it is based on CRT televisions, so
Yeah,
you would need to
be interesting.
you need to update it.
I guess. Yeah, the volume thing went, like when it has like fake volume controls, it really wouldn't. It would hit different, if you will.
Yes.
You'd be like, wait a minute, my volume doesn't look like that at all. This is stupid.
Or when I would cut
all
the
right.
aux.
Speaking of stupid, Scalebound. Scalebound was a platinum IP about dragons or something.
Teenagers.
Honestly, I thought this game looked like garbage, so I have no love for it. But I think in the current phase of Microsoft, look at me starting again. I could see this coming back as a Game Pass thing, just for reals. Like, just give it to some smaller developer. You've got like 80 of them now, so I think it could happen.
It's dead.
No, dead as a doornail.
Yeah,
It was never finished in the first place.
I know.
I think the vision for it just didn't pan out, and it was born of a partnership. And I just think they think that it's probably just best to leave it in the dirt.
Yeah, I think, I did speculate late last year that Microsoft might be interested in acquiring Platinum, or at least some kind of, popular Japanese dev house. And if they did acquire Platinum, I could see a future where after regaining Phil's good graces, Kamiya is allowed to start from scratch on Scalebound. But I think that the ship has sailed. I mean, that was a prototype for the Xbox One that really did not look good, did not seem to perform well, was never finished. Anything they had, they would have to start over. And it's kind of an Anthem thing where the IP just does not seem appealing or valuable. So I can't really find a justification outside of Kamiya's own passion.
Yeah, the only people that care about Scalebound are like hardcore Platinum people that would just buy the game regardless of quality. So it seems like a waste of time.
Okay. Well, I'm not a Platinum guy, so I'll just defer to you all. All right. Next up is Jak and Daxter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck Praxis.
God, what the hell? All right. Well, yeah, I was gonna say dead too, but jeez.
Absolutely dead.
Naughty Dog doesn't make that kind of shit anymore.
Sony has no interest in this. Naughty Dog has no interest in this. It ain't happening. Crazy to me that of all those like PS2 platformers, I felt like Jak, the original, was like the biggest one.
Yeah.
And it's the only one that hasn't had some kind of comeback, really. Like, because Sly Cooper is still talked about as coming back pretty often.
No.
Yes,
that's
it is.
headcanon, I'm afraid.
Well, it did come back on the PS3.
Yes, on the PS3, which was about a decade ago. Yes, it did come back a decade ago.
Yes, it did. No, it was in 2013.
So
9
years
years.
ago.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But either way, you would have thought that, like, Jak would have come back before Sly. But here we are.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's sad.
It is
but,
sad. I like Jak a lot.
But then again, they did show that like prototype of like those art. What was the concept art for like a more gritty Jak and Daxter?
Yeah, brutal.
And that was pretty rough. So probably best.
Definitely keep modern Naughty Dog away.
Yeah, probably for the best. All right, next up in the boomer shooter category is Quake. Now, I think Quake has had some on and off resurgences over the years. And, it had the port last year. But, when you think about the other IP that Bethesda now owns, like Doom had a comeback. Wolfenstein had its big comeback. It always feels like Quake is the odd one out when it comes time for these big, giant, soft reboots. So, Setzer, since this is up your alley, what do you say to Quake?
I think it'll have its day in the sun. I might have been more hesitant to say that before Wolfenstein Youngbloods came out and kind of derailed that franchise. I think that 2 horses in the race is enough, and you don't want to risk homogenizing those. But I think now that Wolfenstein has been kind of derailed and put on the back burner, and Doom has kind of reached its apex, insofar as it's hard to see where they can go from there, at least for me. I think Quake will have its day in the sun, and it'll bring something fresh, the same way Doom and Wolfenstein did.
Fresh.
Okay, so this is going to sound insulting, and I don't mean it to be such, because Quake is actually like a great game. So keep that in mind. I've always looked at Quake as the lawbringers to Overwatch and Battleborn. You know what I mean?
Boy, you could not have said that in a more insulting way.
That's why I preface that.
I'm not sure what you're trying to say.
No offense, but
I'm saying Doom is the Overwatch and Battleborn is Wolfenstein.
Oh, come on, Quake was like the multiplayer shooter of its time. 3D graphics cards kicked off with Quake.
It's like a hardcore thing. I don't think it's as remembered as Doom and such. Like
This is not tribes. This is bigger.
I think in a lot of
Yeah.
people's mind they kind of meld together, and maybe it's because I'm a console guy, but
I think so.
I don't see as much fervor for Quake.
I think there's a real thirst
Okay, well,
for Quake.
I'm willing to admit I was wrong, but as I said, I did not mean that to sound insulting. Quake's like a great game. It's just always come across to me as like the third most popular.
I
Like,
do see where
third
you're
wheel.
going with that. I think that's because of how the modern id and Bethesda have treated it.
Yeah.
okay,
I think that it took a long time to go from Doom 3 to Doom 2016. And I think Quake is kind of in a similar situation where and Wolfenstein was too. And I think the reason you feel that way about Quake is just because those other two franchises had their redemption after their derailment, and Quake, started to get a little comfortable in the early mid 2000s,
Also,
just like Doom and Wolfenstein.
Quake is a little harder because Quake, so much of its legacy is tied in with its multiplayer and with its graphics at the time, that to bring it back, you'd almost want it to do, it would feel like it'd be hard to top.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of why they've been hesitant, because like its appeal is multiplayer, which is done by so many things. So how do you make it relevant in that space?
Mm-hmm.
They just don't want to make Quake-ass Quake. They want to do something special, I guess.
well, yeah,
right.
to be fair, it's still called QuakeCon, so
Yes, it is. All right, next up, everyone's favorite space racing thing, except for Sony fanboys. F-Zero. Derek, I don't need to say anything about F-Zero, so what do you think?
I think there is an F0% chance it comes back.
Me too.
I think Nintendo, for whatever reason, has decided they just aren't interested in space racing anymore.
I think that it doesn't fit with them.
Well, they keep saying
stuff.
They keep saying like they need like a revolutionary idea to bring it back, which is bizarre to me because they bring back dumb Mario sports games every other year that
right,
barely change.
20 Yoshi games that all suck.
And goddamn, Pokemon was stagnant for 20 years before Arceus. So them saying that is just telling me they're done. They have no interest in it.
I think they're more than happy to just continue to plop old F-Zero games on their various services.
I think GX will eventually come as part of like the GameCube online whenever the Switch 2 comes out.
Okay.
But no,
I guess that
doesn't count.
I'll say that doesn't count.
Yeah,
I'll say that doesn't count.
Yeah, because then you'd have to count the SNES.
It would have to be a remaster.
Yeah, because then you'd have to count the SNES on the man thing.
Right.
F-Zero. So.
Yeah, I'm not counting those legacy services because that's just dumping ROMs.
Yeah. So, but that's I think the most you'll ever see of F-Zero again.
Yeah, I think this is the same situation as ARMS, right? Some guys on the internet obsess over this game 20 years later, and eventually there will be a low effort pump and dump.
F-Zero rules. I don't agree with that.
I mean, whether it's a good game or not, it doesn't matter. It's it's about the publisher perception of the community.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I think Nintendo thinks that there's just like 5 people that are just really loud about it, and I think they're right. because that series hasn't sold well, like, I don't know, probably since the Super Nintendo, honestly. Like, I don't think F-Zero X lit up the charts, even though it's fantastic.
I would be excited because F-Zero GX is a fantastic game, but
it is.
But I'm also realistic.
They have a racing game. It's called Mario Kart, and Mario Kart started to incorporate some aspects of F-Zero. So
yeah,
literal F-Zero like parades around in the skin of Captain Falcon at times.
Yes.
Disgustingly.
Once they put Captain Falcon in Mario Kart, is officially over.
Yeah, it's true. All right. Now, this one is near and dear to all of our hearts, and it's complicated. Mega Man. And I put in parentheses all varieties. So I'm going to run through the 4 varieties I'm referring to, and then I'll let you all have your chance in the sun. Traditional Mega Man, I think that will come back. Probably like once a decade, you'll get like a nostalgic sequel of some kind, a la 9 and 10. I don't think 11 did amazingly well, so
I bought it.
I think they'll. I mean, I liked 11, but I'm saying I don't think a lot of people were super into it.
I triple dipped. I did my job.
I think traditional will get its once a decade release. I think X is gone because I think X's classic collection releases didn't go over quite as well because the second game is probably one of the worst compilations ever released, having 5, 6, 7, and 8. Only one of which is actually really playable.
Well, 8's the most playable one, which is
Okay.
sad.
And then Legends, I think, will have a collection released in the next 5 years. I think the fervor around that fan base is building back up slowly after 3 tried to kill it. And I think Battle Network is dead. So I'm
Star
going.
Wars.
I'm going. No.
They're like the same thing.
I'm going. Let's see. Palpatine, Vader.
Okay, well, I'll go next. First of all, I think Battle Network is coming back. I am stunned that they haven't released a Battle Network Legacy Collection yet, because I felt like that was going to come after they did a 0-1 out of nowhere, and I still think they'll do that. I think not doing that's just leaving money on the table from idiots like me. They'll just buy it. I think the OG Mega Man will always be around. There will always be like a new compilation or a new Mega Man. It's just he's like Mario. He's just always going to be there.
Or more like Sonic these days.
Oh yeah, true. Though I did like Mega Man 11. I'll be honest. X is dead because the gimmick of Mega Man X is fast moving, and there's really no reason to do that again anymore. You can just make regular Mega Man fast moving, and the sci-fi story is stupid, and it's just better to leave it in the past. And what was the last one? Legacy, Mega Man, X,
Legends.
Oh, yeah, Legends will be back. I think it'll just be like a remaster of the 3 games, though. It won't be like they won't ever release
2 games.
No,
or
I'm counting Trombone.
Misadventures of Trombone.
Yes, I'm counting that as a Legends game. I do not think Mega Man Legends 3 will ever happen, but I think they will release a compilation of some sort.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. There's always going to be, Capcom will always have a need to beat the drum for classic Mega Man and pretend that they give a shit and release Mega Man 12 circa 2025, Mega Man 13 circa 2037, and so forth.
Yeah.
X is dead for the exact reason Derek said, which is that its gameplay has kind of become redundant. I think 0 and ZX are in the same boat as X. Legends, I could see getting an HD release. I will go out on a limb and say that of all of the Mega Man spin-offs that already exist, I think that's the one that's most likely to get a new game at some point.
Agreed.
I agree.
Agreed with that.
Battle Network, dead as a doornail, because its gameplay has kind of been passed by in a lot of ways. I'm really surprised there hasn't been like a Battle Network mobile game, given the contents of that series, which is basically about smartphones. You know, maybe a gacha game down the line for Battle Network. I wouldn't be surprised by that. Star Force, super dead, deadest of the dead. I think that outside of like a new mainline Mega Man 12, if there is going to be a Mega Man revival, it'll probably be a new spin-off series.
It would be kind of like when they were kicking around the idea of making like a first-person Mega Man X, where they just reinvent it entirely. But
yeah, and I think it'll be totally divorced from existing Mega Man branding like X or whatever.
Yeah, agreed.
Right now I'm looking up at a poster of all the Mega Man bosses from 1 through 11, and I am picturing myself family portrait style, like, you know, in a sitcom where they like tape on a person who's not there. Like when 12 comes out one day, having to like attach a few extra characters to it.
Mm-hmm.
Very sloppily, which sounds fun, actually. I might do that when it comes in 6 years. All right, next, Banjo. I'm saying Palpatine.
Dead.
No, I think Microsoft now has a bunch of developers, and I'm looking at Toys for Bob and thinking they brought back Spyro and they brought back Crash.
Yeah,
they
now that you mention
bring
it,
back Banjo.
I think
I could see it.
Who says no?
I agree with you, but for a different reason. I think the Grinch leak for Banjo, in particular, caught Nintendo's attention about how much people wanted Banjo in Smash Brothers. As you'll note, one of the first NSO games mentioned was Banjo-Kazooie, which came out in January. I think Nintendo will purchase Banjo from Microsoft.
Wow.
And
I
That's
actually
a ballsy prediction.
I had that dream the other day, I'm not gonna lie. It was a pretty great
the
dream.
reason I think so is because they didn't realize how popular it was in the West until very recently.
I could see it almost a little bit like one of their, with the Kirby series going 3D, I think they're seeing the value in 3D platformers more. And I mean, at this point, Banjo feels like more of a Nintendo game than anything.
Agreed.
So,
That's why I think that.
well, I would love that.
Because no
obviously.
matter what Microsoft does, people will always consider Banjo a Nintendo thing. So
that is, I would be very happy about that.
I'm gonna do a little devil's advocate here real quick though. Okay. You said Nintendo is starting to see the value of 3D platformers. So Microsoft, on the other hand, is also observing this phenomenon.
Yeah.
And maybe thinking to themselves, we've got an IP waiting in the wings.
I think they have the right teams there that could take it, though. So I would be happy either way, truly. I think Nintendo would probably do a better game. Though I do think a Microsoft studio might do a more interesting game. If you catch my drift.
I think I do.
Okay. I'm saying that Nintendo plays it safe.
Yes, they do.
Which is fine.
For Banjo, I kind of want it to be safe.
Yeah, I guess it's true. But I think if they did Toys for Bob, which is the developer that I would go to, that would be safe, because Crash 4 was nothing if not super safe.
True.
And awesome.
Well, then we need TUI to come out on NSO so people can realize it sucks. And so we can avoid that.
Clamor for return to form.
Yes.
So we could finally have a second good Banjo game.
Yes, that would be nice.
Okay. All right. Finally, the one that kept us waiting. Metal Gear Solid. It, of course, Kojima left Konami. Everybody knows about that. And Konami is kind of like playing footsie with video games again. But of course, not with Kojima because they're not into that anymore. There's always talk about Blue Point, which remade Shadow of the Colossus, remaking Metal Gear Solid 1, but that has yet to surface. So, Setzer, what do you think? Is Metal Gear Solid dead, or will it get something?
I mean, I don't think the IP is permanently dead. I think that it is and will remain a valuable IP. And if Konami decides to recommit to video games, or they get desperate, Metal Gear will be trotted out. I think remasters are almost a given, though maybe not within the next couple of years. You know, not within the next 5 years.
Oh yeah, their games are already available,
Yeah.
so they don't have to do much.
On Xbox, they are.
Except for the first game.
But I don't think lack of Kojima is what stands in the way of this franchise. I think it's I don't think Konami has any loyalty to him at all.
Nah.
I think it's just they don't really care about video games and they're the rights holders.
Yeah, I think in the next few years you're gonna see Konami pump out some really soulless versions of their IP. You're gonna get a really bad Castlevania. You're gonna get another really bad Contra. You know, maybe Silent Hill will be functional because maybe it seems like they're shipping that one to a prominent developer, if you believe the hubbub around that one. Metal Gear Solid, I think it's going to happen. The only prayer for it being tolerable is what I mentioned, a remake of the first game, which makes sense because you pretty much can't play the first game without a PlayStation 1 Classic or a GameCube and Twin Snakes
emulator,
or a PlayStation 2 and the original disc, or a Vita, I guess. And you can't play 4 either. But
4
I think
still
that
locked the PS3.
Yeah. 4, you can't even play that on PlayStation now, can you?
You can.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. But I think at some point they're going to have to trot that one out too, because I could see like a Criterion-style collection one day. Like, here's all the Metal Gear Solids, finally together at last, on modern hardware. Or maybe a remake of the first game, which I think would be a really hard remake to do, because that game's like 4 hours long. So I don't know what the hell you would do with that. Will it have to be a really beautiful 4 hours, or would it be really padded? So I don't know. And I think you can't touch that game. Like, you cannot add or subtract from that game. You would be doing it a disservice. So I don't know.
So my take on this is that there's too much money on the table. Metal Gear is still a beloved franchise, despite some recent missteps. But
A recent misstep.
a recent misstep, yes. But I mean, there's just no way they would be insane if there was not another Metal Gear. So for the second straight week, we had a recording snafu. What's going on here? Some zany hacker must be messing with me. But anyway, I make a point about how auteurs might be interested in making their own spin on Metal Gear, and then everybody ultimately agrees the franchise will return at some point. I think it'll be sooner than later, but hey, you never can tell. Here's a rundown for the game. Remember, Vader means the franchise stays dead. Palpatine means it comes back. Blame Cheston if you're confused. Arms, Vader. Guitar Hero / Rock Band, Palpatine. Eternal Darkness, Palpatine. Scalebound, Vader. Jack and Daxter, Vader. Quake, Palpatine. F-Zero, Vader. Mega Man, Legacy Edition is Palpatine. X, Vader. Legends, Palpatine. Battle Network, Vader. Banjo, Palpatine. Metal Gear Solid, Palpatine. And that's it. With that out of the way, that's the podcast for this week. You can reach us on Twitter at alltodaypod and on email at alltodaypodcast@gmail.com. This is Derek, and we'll see you next time. Farewell.